Алло. О, друзі,
So, dear friends, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
таке враження, що нібито як
It's such an impression, that it seems like just a normal day that we usually have.
мені віриться, що рік,
It's hard to believe,
цілий рік майже
but like for almost a whole year, we
як
have
українською
almost
мовою
a year
робимо
of war. We
переклади.
have, so I'm sorry
Мені
for using
здається, в
Ukrainian,
залежності
dear
від
foreign guests. I
української мови.
apologize for using Ukrainian right now.
У нас з вами не
So,
тільки офлайн формат, в нас
it's
є
the
і
offline
онлайн
format, and we have
Я
the
дуже
online
вітаю нашу
guests as
онлайн
well. So I
аудиторію.
do greet
Будь
our
ласка,
online
сьогодні
and
у нас зареєстровано
participants, and right
понад
now we have
250 людей. І
350 people
бачите,
registered
повний
online.
зал
As you can
офлайн.
see, like
Я вас всіх
full
вітаю.
hall in
Це
offline
тільки
mode. So
підкреслює наше
congrats,
бажання
ladies and
спілкуватися
gentlemen.
з
This is
один з
just, it
одним.
just
Мені
outlines
здається,
how much we
незважаючи
want to
не
talk to
ні на
each other.
що,
So despite everything, despite everything, despite
я думаю, бізнесом
any
треба
hostilities
продовжувати
and
жити.
military actions, business has to keep living,
Заробляти,
keep going,
підтримувати один одного.
making
І ті
money,
слова
supporting
і
each
вчинки,
other.
які ви
And the
бачите,
words there that
вони
you
дуже
see
гідно
on the
підкреслюють і
stage,
виражають
these
все
definitely
те,
express
що відчуває зараз
all that
бізнес-спільнота. Тому
business community
я від
feels.
імені
This
Європейської
is on
бізнес-асоціації
behalf of the
хотіла б
EBA.
подякувати
I'd love to
щиро
express my
всім
gratitude,
вам за
sincere
те,
gratitude to
що
all
ви
of you,
робите
ladies and
ваш
gentlemen, for
бізнес, за
doing
те, що
your
ви
business.
підтримуєте
Thank you
свої
for
команди, за
supporting
те,
your
що ви
teams.
самі
Thank you
тримаєтесь,
for
за те,
holding
що ви
on.
підтримуєте
Thank you
такий
for
напрям, такий
Thank you
рух
that you keep
Європейської
going. Thank you for
бізнес-асоціації.
supporting the
Це
EBA
саме наша
movement
інституція
because
має
this is
вашої,
the institution
має вашої
which is yours institution that
присутності,
it
можливість
exists for you. It gives a
знаходити один
chance
одного і
to
знаходити
find each other,
нові
find some interesting
можливості.
ideas and
Тому
opportunities.
сьогодні ми
Okay,
будемо
so
дивитися
today
з вами вперед.
we will just
Вперед,
look
але
forward.
все
In
знову на
future,
перемогу.
we'll
Не
again
будемо
see
вже
some
казати про
forecasts.
те, що рік
We
тому ми з вами
won't
думали,
speak
що
of.
не буде повномасштабного
Well, okay, a year
вторгнення
ago, nobody of us thought
Росії.
that we'll have this full-scale
Згадайте,
invasion.
як ми гарно в цій
Oh,
залі
just remember
сиділи
us
і
sitting in this
казали
hall,
один одному, що
saying in
напередодні війни,
February,
що
just
все
before the
буде
full-scale
добре,
invasion,
що
everything's gonna
бізнес
be
в нас
fine.
буде
Remember that business
процвітати,
is gonna
що війни
flourish.
в нас не
We were
буде.
saying that there
А
would be
для
no
чого
war, but
в
a
нас
year passed.
війна?
We have the
Думати,
war.
що буде далі. Все-таки
What's
давайте
gonna happen
подивимося,
next? Okay, let's
послухаємо
see.
один
Let's
одного.
just listen to
І
each
будемо
other.
запрошувати
The key thing is
бізнес-спілкувальників.
let's
Я
just
хотіла
start
зараз запросити на сцену
treating
для
these new business
вітального
contacts.
слова
So right
Верховного
now, for the welcoming
національного
words, I'd
банку
like to see here
України
the governor of
Андрія
the National
Пишного.
Bank, Andriy
Андрію, вітаю
Pyshny.
вас.
Andriy, please, you're so welcome on the stage, please. So I think first I had to get there. Okay, yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. That's the better. That's a better greeting. Okay. When I was just driving here, I was thinking what to start with, and I I I had this thought that I really wanted to say a lot to you today. This year, for me personally, and I guess for every Ukrainian, absolutely for all of you, for the National Bank, for the President of Ukraine, for government, for our international partners, this was a pivoting year, a very important year just for us to understand who we are, what Ukraine is like a country, who are Ukrainian entrepreneurs, how capable are Ukrainian officials, and in general, just what is Ukraine globally as a global concept and global dimension. What does it present? What does it express? But before actually I start talking about macroeconomics, about regulation, about the exchange rate stability, I really want us all to express our gratitude to armed forces of Ukraine. They made it possible for us to meet here today, and they continue doing everything they can and doing an impossible thing. Russia is still trying to overcome, but they keep us alive. They're bringing peace right now to our country. They're in the process of bringing peace to our country. So this round of applause to them. They deserve to have this round of applause, like, I guess, every minute. I really want you all, I want to express my gratitude to you all. First of all, to you, to entrepreneurs, to business people, for your resilience, for your ability to adapt to these conditions. Thank you for being here, actually, not elsewhere, where we have no war, where it's warmer, where it's more convenient, where we have electricity 24 hours per day, where there are no missiles. Just here, this specific place. So I'm so grateful to your enterprises, to international groups, still staying with Ukraine within this period. This is really crucial for Ukrainians, for the world to understand that despite the full-scale war we have in the center of Europe, this is the longest war since the World War II. Ukrainian economy is still functioning, it's operating. Banking system is there, it's operating. Financial market is there. We think of long-term development, we think about evolution and future, like we think about it. This is what our power is. Me, I've been there for more than 3 months as a governor, in this position of a governor of a national bank. Basically, I don't even count my cadence in days, but I count it in missions with IMF, with our working meetings and discussions, achievements which allow Ukraine to become just stronger, to get some more resources involved. I count it with the number of missile attacks. We all together are surviving. I explain why. Even with the number of missiles which are shot, which they try to shot, they're targeting in our critical infrastructure. This is one of the key parameters for our macro forecasting. The number of missiles, just think as an indicator, number of missile shots. Since the moment of my appointment, we have 13 attacks targeting critical infrastructure. 758 missiles and rockets. If we trust to the military HQ, to Armed Forces HQ, who else can we trust right now? just the HQ, Taking these figures into consideration, the National Bank team, well, in these conditions, we had 3 monetary committees already within these conditions. We planned our activity for 2023. We got some exchange rate stability. What we're doing right now, we want to create a strategy on how to step out of administrative limitations. What does it mean for you as for business? It means more oxygen, literally, more opportunities. We understand that anti-crisis measures that National Bank team is taking at the very beginning of full-scale invasion to Ukraine, these gave us a chance to withstand. When during the conversation, colleagues from IMF, we had these talks. When we tell them about measures we've taken, about the consequences, about our future actions, about how we calibrate our administrative limitations, how we actually evaluate the situation within the conditions of this total insecurity, instability, the capital volatility, perfect storm it is, we still manage to come with some nice macroeconomic forecasts, shape some expectations of the market. We manage. We ensure that there is an understanding that inflation currently is settled, that 26.6 inflation process, we can see the trend. We can see the stabilization trend. And it means that during the full-scale war, when we lose 1/3 of country's GDP, Ukrainian banking system and economy, macro conditions still give us an opportunity to stabilize the situation. When we have conversations with international partners, when they just analyze our anti-crisis measures, I usually saw they were surprised. I saw surprise on their faces. They're surprised, like everything surprises them. How fast we make the decision, how fast these decisions are, how adaptive we are, how capable the government is, the armed forces of Ukraine, how brave they are. Everything surprises them. I'll tell you a story. It's not about macroeconomy, but it impacts the attitude and perception of what is happening, just to show you. Well, before IMF in December, before they made a decision to launch a monitoring program with the participation of the governing board of IMF, this monitoring program right now, it's in the process of implementation. It's a bridge which we managed to build in just a couple of months within 2 missions, let's say, between IMF, Ukraine, and our urge to get this big program filled with funding. This monitoring program will give us a chance, IMF a chance to get answers which are necessary for a big funding program to take place, to implement. We expect to get it together with the government. We are very actively working in that direction because this program will give a chance to Ukraine to get not just the direct funding from IMF, but to shape the donors platform, to establish it, which should fill our need in international financing for 2023. This need is just groundbreaking. $38 billion, that is. Is this a big amount of money? Fantastic, just out of space. But if we compare with 2022, the amount of international support in 2022, we in fact got $32 billion of dollars. Well, it doesn't seem that fantastic and impossible. This is something that will fill the gold reserve. This will actually ensure that we have the stability. This will give a chance to the National Bank to mitigate administrative limitations and to give more oxygen, as I said, for your activity, for your operation. Give a chance to you, to your business, even during the war, within these limitations, to breathe. Their chest full, you know? So the story, okay. During this monitoring program, a couple of days before the voting, I was in Washington meeting the governors, very reputable people, respectable people, who led the Ministry of Finance, led the central bank in a European country. Just we start talking about issues related to monetary policy, and at some moment there is a conversation like, how do you manage? Like, how do you manage it all? I tell them, let me start what I start my working day with, okay? What the functioning protocol to be taken today? It depends on the security situation. That's what I'm starting my day with, yeah? They are surprised, saying, tell me more. I'm telling what protocols we have calmly, absolutely calmly, like red, black, orange, the final day protocol, as we call it. And they say, oh, you're so calm about it. You're telling calmly. I say, okay, we live in it. We live in that. We are conservative people, but we are not the fatalists, you know. We understand that we don't have choice. That's why we have to withstand it. We have to strengthen ourselves and to win. Then I tell them that National Bank is right now operating in such a mode because of these missile attacks and rocket attacks hitting critical infrastructure, and basically we have no electricity, proper electricity supply. Our employees are in remote mode. Sorry, not in the remote mode, but vice versa. They're trying to go to offices because anytime when they stay at home, they may be hit. They may just run out of electricity. There will be no connection. Therefore, we ask them to stay in the National Bank. And we have many women among them. And of course, women take care of children. In National Bank, we now have children's rooms, you know? So yeah, we fully understand that this is just these issues are related to continuous operation and adaptability. We as a regulator have to adapt to these conditions. All of us are in the same boat. for us to ensure critical essential processes for the national bank. We have to get a team. The team should be there. We have to get an understanding like what's happening in the country. We have to breathe the very same air, feeling what this blackout is, having the same feelings, understanding this, and trying to do everything for these not to hamper our activity. You are as captains of your businesses. You're doing the same stuff as we do, you know? You're coming through the storm. And when with our international partners we start talking with these things, certain transformation takes place. Because of that, Ukraine now has another mission, basically. Our case, it's a Ukrainian case. Today, it forces people who lead, who establish policies of international financial organizations, corporations, regulators, it forces them, it makes them think if their protocols are policies, regulations, do these comply to these global challenges we have today? Is it compliant? Well, basically, the negotiation process we're forming right now, where are we going together with IMF, this direction, to a certain extent, it's about rethinking by so many people. They rethink the model on how to interact with a country which is in a very difficult condition. But we still demonstrate such an immense and fantastic capacity. And another important thing here, an interesting thing, we are unbreakable. We truly are. During the first missile attack on January 10th, I asked the department responsible for currency market analysis just to analyze what was the correlation between the missile attacks and the currency demand and the rate. Just during the first day, the gray market went up. But instantly, as there was no demand, they tried to manipulate. Instantly, because there was no demand, it fell. And later, within all these missile attacks, with all these rockets, with all these attacks, hundreds of attacks, no correlation between the exchange rate and the depth of destruction. Ukrainians demonstrated the reverse reaction. In September, I just want to remind you, the psychological factor determined the trends in the market. I mean the currency market. So as the missile attacks activated, Ukrainians stopped reacting to that, because we trusted ourselves, we believed in ourselves, and we had faith in ourselves, and we now know that there are people who are holding the sky above us, or we definitely found some internal strength and energy. Somehow it defines the way how unbreakable we are. It actually makes us that resilient. It's important because National Bank takes this factor into account in macro forecasts. We started looking for models, correlation, how to understand. How can we understand? In these conditions of total instability, with very tough macroeconomic indicators, how can we identify the trajectory of movement, As a result, the macro forecast 2023 of National Bank, by the way, today we will publish it, by the way. It determines that the actual GDP will go up. Well, someone will say this is a slow growth. I say, despite the activation of missile attacks, for any war, for any armed aggression, this is an achievement still, such growth. We can see, we observe that inflation today is in controlled trend, and we hope that 2023 will be the year when inflation will not exceed 18%. 18.7%. 2024 will be the year when security risk will be mitigated and we will have the trajectory of growth. Inflation will be like 10, GDP like maybe 4. These macro forecasts are for discussion, still to be discussed during the operation of mission, starting in a week within our negotiations with IMF. We will defend it using like the arguments that I mentioned right now. And we have figures, data, we have statistics to prove it, to justify it. Ukrainian resilience. Last week, we had the Monetary Committee meeting. Within this meeting, the board confirmed rate at 25% level and our application, we announced our intention to keep this rate at least till the first quarter 2024. But we also had, we intentionally had a couple of announcements given. First of all, National Bank intends to ensure meeting its strategic commitment, non-emission funding of the budget deficit. $38 billion. This is the need like for the next year. It should be funded at the expense of internal debt market potential and, of course, at the expense of support from our international partners. For that, another format of interaction with IMF, another format of cooperation, and understanding the joint goal with Ministry of Finance. Do you see the feedback? The rates are going up. Ukrainian internal loans are becoming more like attractive. Use this opportunity. We want to ensure this exchange rate stability. Because of that, the fixed rate will be kept. But National Bank is launching its own strategy on how to manage the risks, which should ensure the opportunity for this step-by-step mitigation of these administrative limitations. The oxygen, I mentioned it again. It will allow you to operate. For this to become safe, right now we interact and work with banks for that colossal profit of liquidity that we have, not to create for the country and for financial stability, not to create any risks for it. It should be tied, fixed with these deposits with fixed terms. The priority of cooperation with IMF and IFIs, this is something without it, actually 2023 will be really hard. So Ukrainian economy lost, during the war, we lost 1/3 of GDP, national GDP. And rocket or missile attacks we had starting from October, we lost 4 additional percent of GDP because of that, at least. But at the expense of your cooperation, thanks to your cooperation, your adaptability, we managed to compensate slightly in annual dimension these losses. Fourth quarter, minus 35% of loss. Beginning of year, a little bit more than 30%, but still, it's colossal. But in third quarter, we saw and we confirmed how Ukrainian economy started gradually, even despite active phase of hostilities, it started recovering. But Missile attacks targeted at critical infrastructure. The enemy wanted us just to, fall into darkness. And well, we didn't fall into darkness. We just we adapted very quickly to that. Still, we did not lose the ground or the feet. From the standpoint of banking system, I will finish with that. Continuous operation of banking system within all the period of martial law, within all the period of that full-scale invasion. This is a big achievement. And for this achievement, I'm so grateful to bank teams and national bank team specifically because I do think sincerely that with joint efforts, we managed to hold this situation, to stabilize it at least somehow. Finance and banking system, it's functioning within the full-scale invasion conditions for Ukraine. It's a colossal advantage in the war. It's still functioning. This is something that gives an opportunity to involve the support from IFIs, from our partners, demonstrate our capacity, give a chance to our IDPs and refugees, to our refugees feel in Europe like not like homeless people. We can actually pay wages to people. A lot of things even better than I do. Since October, we've had these new challenges, blackouts. With the decision of National Bank, we decided to create a network of power banks to have units of all critically important banks there, which are able to operate even during total blackout. These units have to be equipped with these the sources of continuous electric supply, autonomous equipment, reserve channels, trained personnel. This is very important. The personnel should be trained on how to fuel the generator, basically, how to restart them. In units, we have women mostly, and fuel tanks weigh like 30 kilos each, and just technical breaks and so on. So we have to get this backup, and so on, and so on. When we started this project, the power banking network, there were like a little bit more than 800 units. We decided we wanted to have more than 1,000, 35% of the banking network. This was the goal. Today, 1,940 units today in the power banking network. Almost 2,000, 320 settlements. Well, much more than we actually planned to get. So it means that there is a feedback in the system. It's coming in the system. Banking system understands what is level of responsibility, and we don't even need to have any guidelines and instructions. Our colleagues are doing everything what they have to autonomously, and not only critically important banks are in the network, but others are there as well. So continuity is one of the factors of our resilience and unbreakability. We operate even during total blackout. We can do it. This is the task that I consider. I can't say we are on the way of performing that completely, but we're still on the way. It's not like complete. And just to finish, I personally have no doubt that victory is ours. It will be there. I personally have no doubt that we will be there, a part of European Union. I personally have no doubt that Ukrainian entrepreneurs will demonstrate to Europe after we win, will demonstrate the top quality of business activity. Commitment to provide the best result, the talent, the skill. This will be the foundation of Ukrainian perspective for so many years. But we have to withstand. We have to just keep it moving until we win. It means what? We just have, we've done a lot. We have to do even more still. National banks, I can assure you, National Bank is fully understands its commitment and responsibility. We understand what is the price of error. We are very meticulous when it comes to any limitation, when it comes to any decision. We're very cautious. And just when we have this opportunity, and we try to normalize a regulatory environment. We try to normalize it just when we can do it, you know. The decree of the National Bank, which establishes administrative limitations, we revised it for 38 times. Next Friday, tomorrow, we'll have another decision of the board. We'll revise it again with the smallest opportunity possible. We understand how important for the business to get an opportunity to create new jobs and give a chance. Okay, we have to give you extra oxygen. I tell that again, to breathe fully. Margaret Thatcher, there was this deep economic crisis in Britain. She said once, if I had, what you think? If I had a button which turns off unemployment completely, how do you think? Wouldn't I just press it? So that's what I want to tell you. If I, as a governor of National Bank, if I had this magic button to just make unemployment vanish, to take away the deficit, all these deficits, the deficit of liquidity, take it away. Just the consequences of 30% of GDP loss, doing many, many, many things which actually hamper us to operate properly. Do you think I wouldn't just press it? I would. Oh, I would now, just now. But we do understand that when we restore these limitations, well, still, we have to move to our ordinary regulatory practices step by step, doing it in such a way just not to create extra risks. Gold reserves of a national bank currently are higher than before the war. These are much more intense. Up up to now 30 billion almost. Not a big figure, but filled primarily at the expense by the sources shaped by our international partners. For us to find the balance, we have to depend not only on donors and credits, and we really work on the strategy of 2023 to mitigate administrative limitations. We really want this to start working, the strategy. Because of that, I just want to assure you that National Bank is understands and recognizes at 100% all these risks that you stumble upon every day. We are interested for Ukrainian business to start working in ordinary normal conditions. We're working on that and we will be. Macroeconomic stability, that's the goal, financial stability. Capacity of banking system to meet your credit demand, but gradually, step by step, calibrating our decisions to give maximum effect and not to create extra tension. We all often say we trust and we have faith in our armed forces of Ukraine. They deserve that. Every day they prove how capable they are, how brave they are. I really want you, what I ask you right now, Think that Ukrainian government, Ukrainian National Bank. Oh, well, we have this meeting today in this hall. It's 344th day of war. We talk of perspectives and forecasts. Please trust us as well. I mean, the government, National Bank. This capacity, well, this is our joint result. Civic society, and this is our joint responsibility and many other stuff. There is no book which can be opened where you can read how to fight the consequences of the war. We all together are writing this book right now. Each is doing its own chapter. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andriy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that the button you really wanted to press or whatever, we need also to have a peace button added to it. If we press the peace button, if we push it, all other buttons would emerge and those would allow us to develop already and function properly. I'd like to pass the floor to Rostislav Shurma, basically the key person in the presidential office responsible for economy. Okay, Rostislav, please, let's have this conversation. Yeah, please come to the stage. Oh, we really designed this stage for speakers. Let's have people there on the stage, okay? Let's just do it like that, informally. All right? Okay. Okay, I'm so grateful that you joined us. You can see definitely business community is missing you and missing each other. Previously, you were in the hall. You were there in a suit in a business community, but right now, a year passed. We have a year of war. We can see how complicated it is, but we're withstanding. What is your forecast for future for 2023? I will stand up. That's easier. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'd like to structure our conversation as a dialogue with business community. I'll try to be very brief to have it more interactive. So look, for us to understand the forecast, let's take the military story away. It's hard to forecast, you know, for someone. It's really hard for us to forecast businessmen and women. What are the expectations of business? Staying here in Ukraine, we are under pressure of certain informational, you know, aura, some informational vibe. We have some expectations there. After Davos, I can tell you, I've been there, Economic Forum. I changed my impressions and feelings. I felt a sentiment of the global business towards Ukraine. I felt the dynamics. It's important, which compared to previous events, it was different. I didn't expect that. First signal is that traditionally, when we try to negotiate something with CEO of the biggest corporations, usually previously you had to knock at the doors, explain all the time, you know. This time it was different. With any head of global corporation, the meeting was happening fast. It's a good signal. Secondly, it happened so not because they wanted to touch something like touch Ukraine, who are these people just approach us, yeah? Those who withstand Russia. But in the majority of cases, we have some very specific conversations, practical ones, because what is happening, the war, it changes the map, it changes the landscape of so many processes, especially in energy sector, in metallurgy, in forestry sector, everywhere. It gives new opportunities and shifting, retransforming these flows where corporations want to enter if they're not ready to make any decisions because a lot of instability is there. At least they start looking at that seriously, making some marketing studies, involving some teams, studying something. What does it tell us? That they believe in our victory. And this is a good signal. Thirdly, the general sentiment. Traditionally, business is much more cautious around politics. comparing to politicians themselves. They try to be a little bit aside, stay aside without any announcements and decisions made. What I see right now, that the attitude of CEOs of the biggest corporations had a chance to talk to 20 of them, 20 out of top 100. It's much more different. It's much more decisive and determined compared to public opinions of politicians. If traditionally it was the opposite, practically from each of the CEOs, I heard that Ukrainian victory is not about Ukraine. Ukrainian victory is about the Western world winning. Capitalism should win. It's system winning over the threat posing the risks. So we have to strengthen the support. We have to win at any price. So this is what I heard from many of them. If we have this opinion, if it's expressed by corporations with hundreds of people, hundreds, thousands of people employed, with billions of dollars, we realize how Western democratic system is functioning. It's clear that sooner or later, this is translated into more decisive announcements of our Western partners, what we can see within the last weeks. The armament decisions and strengthening the military support, these three things give us much more confidence that finally we will win, not just win, but together with Western partners, with big business, we'll get a big chance to build something new, something big, something huge here in Ukraine. Briefly, when it comes to general forecast, coming back to 2023, I don't want to do it. My colleague Andriy Pyshny has just given very clear indicators. I don't want to waste time. Okay, coming back to Davos, I can tell you that there was very optimistic atmosphere, but CEOs of big companies said, well, the money will come, but apart from victory, you have still to work with corruption and regulatory mode. Was that message there? Okay, so how do we plan doing this? Okay, two components are there. First is regulatory and institutional component. Second, fighting corruption. Let's start with the second thing. Everyone can see search day. Yesterday we had search day, or you can see what's happening recently. I can assure you that this is just the beginning of a big systemic work on taking out corruption out of everywhere. Please don't expect that magically in these 2 or 3 days, search days, we'll fight it. No. This will be a very long process, followed by a lot of oppression and resistance. Not 1 month. We need to have many of these sessions around. What is really important? Yesterday we saw it, that there are no sacred cows when it comes to positions, agencies, and we had these strong businessmen, which used to be strong, and untouchable businessmen. Anyone who is systemically corrupt gets specific results. Not tomorrow, in a month. Not in a month, in 3 months. But trust me, we have this presidential decision just to fight this problem, solve this problem, show all the world that this problem is about to be solved in Ukraine. Secondly, coming to regulatory environment, rule of law. These are more systemic structural changes. We can break it into short-term and more systemic transformations. Let's start with simple. Each of you there in this hall, you are leading an enterprise, a team, doesn't matter, okay? Just for you to build something new, what you need? People. If we speak about physical assets, not just intellectual, spots, platforms like land, connections, permits, something that traditionally Ukraine was the most highly corrupted thing, with a lot of manipulations, a lot of time it took just physically to come. We set a goal. I think we will achieve it in half a year, I guess, is to make a country the most accessible. Just we speak about the access of coming to stage when you can start building it without any hampers, without any obstructions. As a businessman, I know what we need. A land plot first. Each of you who wanted to open a plant understands that when you come to a region, you stumble upon you have 5, 10, 20 plots held in private hands. They ask horrible prices. If these are municipal ones, officials start, doing what? So what we want to vote soon. The procedure according to each uh, any agricultural plot in e-declaration mode, just a notification. Then it will go to a specific category like industry, energy, logistics, construction. It means that picking a spot, it will expand the selection process. So any industrial business, logistical energy business, it will be cheaper for business to enter. It doesn't mean that we will take it all away, but we will save months, many months, for these bureaucratic procedures. We will give more choice. Connections. We can see cases with regional energy centers, but soon we will make a couple of amendments, which will definitely change approach to pricing and to availability of the capacity. An example, we analyzed that today you come to any regional energy, you want to take like 7 megawatts. Okay, they tell you, please rebuild this, pick this, buy this. If you want to get this capacity, it costs a lot of money. But it's not like that. The current decision-making system authorization stipulates certain limits, but technically, more than 70% of capacities, which are de facto blocked, de facto are not used. So we plan just with a couple regulatory changes to deblock it, which will allow to make it cheaper and to make it faster to get permits. When it comes to construction permits, I think many of you already see the difference that we have digitization, automatization of this process. We will not stop at this. We will sign a law 5655 on urban planning activity. There will be no monopoly for local authorities, just for the object commissioning and permits. We really want to take away the bureaucracy, take away all these links in the chain that can be taken to minimize the corruption risk. This is just purely practical. This will be, okay, in 2023, we plan to have just 3-4 months for that. This is not an idea. This is a draft law. It's registered in the Verkhovna Rada. We plan the first reading of the law on February 7th. And other draft laws will be read so and considered. These are specific things. All these drafts are there. So it's not just, these are not ideas. These are the tools. A lot of these we have, I don't want to stop at this. The tax reform, it has to change everything and set a foundation. When shall we have a draft law? The text we can read. Look, the draft law is ready. We will bring some amendments to it, and I think 3-4 weeks we have to improve it. Still something is discussed, but I just want to say that draft law will be registered after we get the partners' approval. First of all, IMF. They take the most solid position. Okay, we would like to make it fast, but it doesn't work fast. I assure everyone that we will not let it go. We think that this is the fundamentally proper decision which will stimulate business in Ukraine, which will take away practically all corruption in tax area, equalize the business conditions for transparent companies. We have them all today here, many of them. I know that 100 of you are like paying these white wages to employees. You all pay taxes. And I do understand how hard it is to compete with those who give wages in envelopes, because 40% of difference. So we have to create the same conditions for everyone. This is a very proper thing to activate business environment in Ukraine. We know we will push it till the end. You are a very determined person. You will push it. I know. I don't want to take responsibility and giving you deadlines. I don't want to give you dates. It's hard to forecast the response of officials in IMF, but trust me, We're working productively with them. The visit planned by the management of IMF in February, they know that this is one of the key issues we'll
А от
talk
стосовно
about.
державного управління, ну ми
The state
розуміємо, що
management,
чиновники, які
or
ну
as we call public
більш
administration.
явно
Well,
образовані, які
officials,
мали такі
some of
гарні
the officials
відповіді,
were
котрі
fired
приготовлювали, які я не знаю,
with some good
подякувати за
wish
достойні
lists like
служби там і все
brigade
таке решта, на зарплати, які були
watches and so
вкладені,
on.
ж в принципі
With
вони
their
могли
wages, they
працювати.
simply can't
Але
buy
от
those
питання таке
watches.
до вас. От
Okay, but they can have
держава
wishes.
планує
Is the
збільшувати
state
зарплатню
planning
державним
to
службовцям?
increase
Ну, я не
wages
знаю,
for
щоб збільшувати, але
officials?
ну хоч якось нормально.
Just have it moderately high, but okay. We have a goal and we have specific action plans. There's a clear understanding. Our team and the president do have it that state officials, we need to cut their number. Not percentage, but we have to cut them twice or three times. Wages should be increased also twice or three times. But it's about the stability of situation. We all realize that in today's conditions, hundreds of thousands of people during the war to be dismissed. When it comes to social stability, this may be like an issue, a problem. So for us, we internally made a decision that we will pave this way. Maybe we will not do it sharply, gradually, agency by agency, step by step, but definitely within a couple of years, we have to get the situation when we'll have fewer officials with higher wages. Look, the wages, how citizens are responding to wages of heads of state companies. State company and private company, how are they different? Why the head of state company a couple of times higher? Why the wages should be? We're pushing people to corruption. There's certain social intolerance to that, and we have to fight that as well. But we will move to these market wages not in 2023. We'll take some steps in 2023. I think we'll have uh, some optimization of the ministries and agencies. I don't want to give you deadlines again. It's not correct, but soon. Step by step, this process will take place on reconstruction. CEOs, global CEOs, they really want us to win. We all hear that it doesn't matter how long the war will be there. So the support will be given. This is the proper message. Yeah. How shall we recover and rebuild it? You've established the agency. Mustafa is there. Shall we have something else? Okay, look. We have a couple of components. On resilience and support, I think the announcements are great, but we have to understand that the world supporting us, this is the democratic world, comparing to aggressor state where it's authoritarian, the same person for decades, the cycle of choices. Sorry, the cycle of elections. And in democratic world, they can impact the decision making. The faster we will be with the victory, it's better. Because despite all the announcements, there's certain specificity for Western political system functioning. When it comes to mechanisms of recovery, well, we clearly understand that up to 80% of money which will be sent for recovery, these are private money. Hundreds of billions we need G2G, state concession money, I don't know, grants, IFIs funds, in the best case, dozens of billions. Well, truly today we are focused on that, to build a mechanism which allows us to get the maximum multiplier out of the concessional capital, the governmental organizations and private capital. We all know such organizations as EBRD, WB, IFC, and so on. And our task is to have it per each dollar of their money and governmental money to involve up to $10 of private capital, this proportion. Up to now, this multiplier, I don't want to say it was close to zero, it was very low. I don't want to analyze why it happened because we had internal problems, regulatory, but still the organization of the process, how it happened. Today we have a very clear understanding with the biggest asset managers of the world. We have certain negotiations in Davos, and soon you will see the visit of heads of the biggest investment banks, biggest asset managers to Ukraine to talk about this construction in details, how to build this model which will allow us to have this maximum leverage from concession money, opening limits, big pools of money. The asset managers do manage. So we are ready, but we talk to HQs, we talk to our partners, we can see that there is some interest. Recently, we opened the global business for Ukraine. This is our extraterritorial business unit. We can see that there is an interest abroad to Ukraine. What do we lack apart from regulatory environment and trust? Political risks insurance. Now something happens with MIGA DFC, but yesterday we heard that Germany is giving some state guarantees to investors planning to invest in Ukraine. But we have to start working in that direction for people to understand that political risk insurance is there. Okay, yes, this is an obligatory mechanism. We have to understand that even with this mechanism, this will give guarantee to 10% of industries ready to invest. The majority of industries will not enter Ukraine before the war is over. So we have to prepare. This is what we can see now. The first signals that preparatory work is done. Of course, this tool is necessary. We will work with MIGA to expand the limits, with other organizations to expand the pool, billion, 5 billions, but basically will not solve the problem. The war has to be over. We have to win, and we have to get a format of military and political guarantee and insurance to guarantee the stability, guaranteed by the partners in any format. Let's be realistic. I really want to say everything will come and do it, but yeah. Be calm and be pragmatic. We are working on that. We really, when the war is over, we're doing this. The Ministry of Defense, MOD, and military direction. I know that before the war, business was working less with MOD. Right now, the majority of funds will go to military sector. Part of business is interested in opportunity, like how to supply to MOD. It's hard to do it right now. We try to make communication easier with them. Still, it's not the case. What is your opinion? Second aspect is, of course, this conscription immunity. Okay, for people to freely leave abroad, to develop business connections and return. Our men in the companies, they're not ready to run away. It's okay in Ukraine, but they also want to go to business trips. With the MOD, I won't tell you, I'm not ready to comment. It's beyond my scope of competence. I'm sorry. I can't give any explanation. The only thing I understand, we'll have systemic fight with corruption. I think, well, you're observing that, like you saw it yesterday. It's just the beginning. This is everything I can say. When it comes to business trips abroad, we designed a wonderful product called E-Trip. It's even voted in the cabinet, but it doesn't move further. It's fully transparent, but we waited for it digital. I tried it like 45 seconds it takes. Click, pick, and yeah, we wanted to get it. No, I'm not ready. No, the product is not ready. It's not signed. Sorry. I think that just like us, you realize this is important. That's why we designed it together with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, what we can do to push it. We need to have this active public position of business. It's not for the official. It was not done for ourselves. It was for business first. The tax reform is not done for the officials, but for business. If we have a clear, a loud voice from business. Trust me, we need to have a riot or what we they must have this march or protest. No. Publicly expressed opinion of heads. Why rioting? It's martial law. We have media, we have like channels, so um, we just need to have clear announcements, calls. Okay, the call is accepted. We wrote about in media about that, but we need to do it again. Friends, maybe someone wants to ask a question. Okay, we have the time out for Rostislav, unfortunately. So, Rostislav, I will continue dialogue with you. Uh, we'll have to move forward because it's really important to get something from business to understand how they live right now. But you said that money will not come from private investors before the war is over. When the war may be over. When the magic button is there. Okay, I can't do it. It's not my responsibility. I'm sorry. I'm not that irresponsible. We heard in Davos that people expect to get this long marathon. In the couloirs, I got this information more that it may be a long process. Economically, will the country be ready to withstand the marathon? Look, technically, yes. If the support, financial support is given. Technically, when it comes to budget, payment balance, and exchange rate, we will be able to withstand with the donor support. But we have to understand that every month of war is launching some reversible processes. First of all, it's about human capital. Objectively, within 11 months, almost any of us, 90% of us, not many were building, developing, but 35 were invested by Bayer and 35 million and 60-70% of this whole in normal conditions would do some development projects. Today, maybe 5-10%. Last year, in the end of December, companies said that 50% out of these plan to invest this year. Analytical data, according our research, but we have the best companies. I just want to bring another idea. We lose human capital. It leads to loss of human capital. We lose faith. We lose the sentiment, and strength. When the war is prolonged, it will be harder to start then. Some decisions are made to relocate the business. Employees don't see perspective, they leave. They change their activity, they try to leave the country, look for something different. So then we have these reversible things happening. Maybe this is the key problem. But technically, to keep the reserves, the balance, keep the rate at some level, fill the budget, pay the pensions and salaries, I think with the partner support, a year, 2, 3. Last question. Technical one. People who left Ukraine, those who left abroad and stay abroad, work for Ukrainian companies, will the state try to retain their fiscal residency in Ukraine? Or this is like not for discussion? We've talked about that. Our opinion was that we think that today the majority of people still can go back, can return. We won't work on these exceptions, but the situation can change depending on military situation, military environment. Thank you, Rostislav. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of us. We continue the dialogue. Right now we move further according to agenda. Thank you. Thank you so much. Friends, right now we have with us representative of the BlackRock.
Do we have him already online? Yes. Excellent. We have Scott Swift, Chief Fixed Income Strategist for BlackRock. And
Hi, can you hear
it
me?
was really a very good idea to invite BlackRock to talk to us, because obviously BlackRock is responsible for many things when it comes to reconstruction and development of Ukraine composition. So Scott, welcome to our meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. And can you please let us know what do you expect from 2023, both from global point of view, and also what do you see also in Ukraine? How do you believe the situation will develop further?
Great. Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's certainly an honor to be able to speak with you today, and obviously, a very important issue for all of you, an important personal issue for me as well, as it is something I am firmly behind your effort to stabilize the country and obviously to rebuild afterwards. So this is also a very important thing for me personally. What I would say is I wanted to talk to you about three things today. I got the questions ahead of time, so I just thought about how to put it together so it would be A, interesting, but B, also address kind of the major questions. And there are three areas I wanted to touch on. First is to give you our view of how we see the war unfolding over the next couple of months into the summer. Give our view on how we see the events unfolding. Second is to talk a little bit about the global economy and how it is reacting to the kind of confluence of inflation and then now potential recessions in the Eurozone and in the US. And then to touch a little bit on, I think, some of the comments that were made in the last session related to foreign investment into Ukraine and how that would how we see that how we see the steps towards that. So maybe I'll just start with the first kind of our view of what's happening there, and obviously this is our view from outside, but our view nonetheless. The first, we make kind of 7 important points. The first is that the territorial moves in Ukraine have been locked down to some degree by both kind of trench warfare and also more recently of the mining of fields around the borders or around the fronts. This speaks to a much more dug-in military situation than we've had in the past. Also, obviously, unfortunately, echoes a World War I type of fighting style. So the first is that the sides have become very dug in. The second is that, unfortunately, the war effort has become exceedingly more violent, and we've seen unfortunate, very high numbers of casualties on both sides of the conflict. With estimates of around 100,000 on both sides of the war. So the second point would be that the war has become more violent. The third is that obviously it is a humanitarian challenge and disaster for Ukraine. We note that a third of the Ukrainian population has been displaced from their homes, and we have 8 million Ukrainian refugees. So this continues to be a very significant and important human aspect to the humanitarian disaster for you. But we also note that it looks as if both sides are preparing for offenses in the spring. We see the mobilization of troops on both sides. We would expect to see Putin move forward in the east of the country as the winter turns to spring. But there seems to be kind of additional forces putting pressure on the potential for offenses. Fifth is that, as mentioned earlier, the international support for Ukraine continues to be one of the most critical elements for your success. And one of the things I thought was personally very touching, I am American by the accent, you can tell, but I've lived in the United Kingdom for almost 20 years. We've raised our children here. I am actually a British citizen at this point as well. And I must say that Rishi Sunak, when he became Prime Minister of the UK, went to Kiev as his first international visit, and I thought that was incredibly important, and also something that I personally was very touched by. But obviously, the continued support by the West is going to be critical. We note the obviously delivery of German and U.S. tanks over the near term to Ukraine will be a significant boost to you, particularly to the defensive capabilities of the country, and that obviously is an important step for the Europeans, as well as a continued effort from the Americans. So I guess two main takeaways from all of that. First is that This will, in our mind, continue to be a long, unfortunately, a long conflict. One of the things that we would note, and I think this is important to say in this forum, is that when we look at the metrics around the war, one of the things that is not captured in numbers is the will to fight. And we would say without hesitation that Ukraine has the will to fight in a much greater degree than the Russian troops, and we think that is a very important metrics in determining the outcome of the conflict. And then finally, and I think more stepping back a little bit, is that this augments the war and the nature of it suggests that there will be continued tension between the West and Russia going on for years to come, and that will be certainly one of the outcomes of this conflict when it is finally finished. So those are observations about the situation in Ukraine, again from without. What I would say in terms of, and maybe should I see if there are questions now, or should I just go through the three areas and
No,
then come
you can
back? What would
you
be
can
easier?
really actually cover all those three aspects because they are, it seems to me, very interesting for the audience. So basically, global economy and how do you see the whole situation impacting actually the economy of the globe?
Great. Okay. And so what one of the things that we would look at into 2023, I think it's important to take a minute and step back and look at what was the major drivers of the economies and also the financial markets in 2022. And again, looking at kind of global equity and global bond markets, the observation that the global bond market suffered much more than the global equity market, I think is an important observation, because at the heart of what has driven financial assets lower in 2022 was effectively higher interest rates. And higher interest rates were a direct product of the central bank, the Western central bank community, so the ECB, the Fed, the Bank of England, reacting to higher inflation. 2022 saw not only incredibly high inflation, but also very volatile inflation. And I think that's an important thing to reflect on. It's not just that inflation moved higher in a kind of normal business cycle function, it jumped higher. Why? Because one, because of the COVID reopening and the pressure that suppliers found in terms of goods delivered into an economy that was not only reopening after COVID, but also stimulated by direct government intervention. So obviously government payments across the US, the UK, and Europe to consumers helped to drive demand. So you had, in some respects, a supply shock from the reopening of COVID. But in addition, as we will all be very aware, the Russia's invasion of Ukraine sparked a energy supply shock as well. Now energy prices have come way down, but again, we're looking back at 2022 for one moment. So you had a confluence of these two factors, right? You had supply shock from the goods of COVID reopening, plus you had the supply shock of higher energy prices because of Russia's aggression, and so the combination caused inflation to move. You know, we saw 15% inflation in the euro area as a result of those two things, and so central bankers who are inflation targeting organizations, what we say is they've fought the politics of inflation and raised rates super aggressively to try and address the inflationary environment that they were in. And so in that increase in rates, for you, so you remember your economics 101, the supply constraint makes the capacity of the economy smaller. And so the rate hikes have a greater impact. And so by raising rates into a supply constrained economy, you actually have a very important impact on economic growth. And so what we are going to see in the first 1 or 2 quarters of 2023 are contractions across the major economies, so the US, the UK, and Europe, as a result of these higher monetary policy tighter monetary policy stance by the central banks in reaction to inflation. And so I think it's almost kind of simple to think about what happened in 2022 as an explosion to the upside of the volatility of inflation and volatility itself and inflation itself. And then importantly, a reaction function from the central banks that effectively pushed rates up higher, much higher than market participants had expected. You know, we asked our investors at BlackRock, what is the number one thing you're worried about for 2022 and 2023? And they said it was inflation. And so it has to be something that we continue to focus on. So that was 2022. And the question is, what does 2023 look like if that was kind of the base from which we have just kind of emerged? Well, there are three important things that are different about this year than 2022. The first is that inflation is coming down, right? We've seen that globally. Now, it may be that that the wage labor inflation will be stickier as we go through the balance of the year, but there's no doubt that in the near term, inflation is falling across all the major Western economies. And as a result of that, market participants are anticipating, and I know the ECB just met today and raised rates 50 basis points and says they're going to raise rates again 50 basis points, questioning why they didn't do 100 at once. But in any event, but these rate hikes are going to come to an end. And so not only do you have inflation falling, but the rate hiking cycle is coming to an end. And in fact, markets are now pricing easing in the years to come. And the third important factor is that Chinese economic growth is coming back online as the COVID response, the lockdown response is lifted very quickly, more quickly than market participants had anticipated in China, allowing that economy to kind of reopen. Interestingly, in China, and I think part of the kind of geopolitical environment that we're in, you know, U.S.-China trade relations are continue to be very, very tense, and therefore and combative to some degree, and therefore we view what's happening in China more about domestic growth than a supply-led or a export-led economic growth in China. But nonetheless, China is coming back online economically. So when we look into 2023, you know, our view is that markets will not, central banks won't be able to ease as much as market participants have priced. So for example, in the US, the policy rate is going to be 5% soon. In 2024, it's priced to be 3% roughly. We don't anticipate that they're going to be able to ease that much because in our mind, inflation is not going to come down that much. And in particular, as it relates to services and employment, which I'm happy to get into if there are questions about it. So our outlook is more balanced because we view this inflation being a longer term problem and a higher problem than the market currently believes and is priced. And a simple way to think about it is, for us, inflation in the US or in the UK or in Europe going from 10 to 4 is easy in the sense that goods supply shocks are being lessened for goods and energy prices are coming down. But to go from 4 to 2 or 4 back to below target, for whichever central bank you're talking about, is going to be much more difficult. And therefore, we don't necessarily share that rate easing path that is currently priced. And that leaves us more pessimistic on equity markets and on bond markets over the course of the year. But I do think the important takeaway is that the two things that are changing that were very big drivers of market performance last year, interest rates and inflation, those are changing this year, and I think that's an important. Those are important factors to take into consideration.
Scott, and actually
Yep.
within like one final comment, and we will move on. In this framework, global framework, and also the outlook which you designed for Ukraine, do you see the appetite? Do you feel the appetite of investors to invest in Ukraine already now? And what should Ukraine do in order to actually to boost this appetite?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I mean, I would echo some of the comments made in the session before. I would say there are three things that we would say. I think first is that it is clear investors are expressing interest in investing in Ukraine. Right, there is certainly interest internationally to do that. I think the first thing that they are concerned about, obviously, is the war. And want to see some level of geopolitical stability as obviously a first step. The second is that investors would also like to see a more investment-friendly environment. And by that, we would highlight kind of regulatory, economic, and politics, really echoing some of the comments that were made about corruption, for example, or in the earlier sessions. So it seems to us that there are investors, and to be fair, some of it is already happening on a small scale, right, on privately. But what we would say investors want to see is more stability, obviously in the geopolitics and in the war effort, and obviously hoping for the positive outcome for you. And then secondly, though, is to see some of the kind of the more business-friendly environment. Yeah.
But do you see then that money will not come until the war is going to be over?
I think that's an important step. I mean, I think it's again, I don't know. I think defining over is a tricky one, right? So in other words, I think it'll depend on how the process, how the effort proceeds in the coming months. It doesn't. Do you know what I mean? It's hard for me to find how investors are going to think about that differently. But I think the idea about some level of stability in the country, I think, is an important part of it.
Oh, okay, thank you, Scott. I think that we should actually continue cooperation with you and communication with you, because you seem to be becoming a very important player for Ukraine. So that's why we would gladly team up with you in order to see what can we do together in order to really make or convert the appetite of investors into real money coming to Ukraine. Because obviously you tell about proper things or fair things, actually a war to be over, and also institutional capacity of country to change, an environment of investment which should be more friendly. But nevertheless, probably together already in off-the-record conversation, we can also discuss what concrete steps it should be done in order for us together actually somehow make this shift possible, and then actually allow this fresh money stepping into the country. So thank you so much for our conversation, and let's move on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
And now, friends, let's have also business view from our business leaders. And I would like to invite to the podium Tomasz Fiala, Dragon Capital, and then Taras Kitsmits of Serve, Tiberio Dima, BSF, but he will be online, Sergei Kovalenko, Jasno, Alexander Pisaruk, Raiffeisen Bank, Alessandro Zanelli, Nestle. Please welcome. Any place, yeah. Free seating. You can sit here, so that I can see everyone. Да, будь ласка. Я не вкушу.
I'm not biting anyone, so don't worry. You can move closer.
So we have been able to hear lots of stories already and lots of information and insights from both government and also BlackRock. And let's continue on. Let's move on and see what kind of future we should expect in 2023. But let me start probably from Tiberio. He is the president of European Business Association and also leader of BSF. Tiberio, are you here with us already?
Yes, I am. I hope
cool.
you can hear me.
Cool. Join our conversation. So how do you see 2023 and what are the results of your year 2022?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna. And dear members of EBA, dear colleagues, I see their very familiar faces. Very sad not being able to be with you face to face. Nevertheless, I'm on Ukrainian soil in Chernivtsi and joining online. Before I go into the question, I think, let me make a comment and a thought. I think the future leadership books will include very much of Ukrainian examples. And I want with this occasion to thank all the EBA members, all the EBA employees, the management team of EBA, and also my fellow board colleagues for your extraordinary solidarity, creativity, resilience, and bravery during last year. I think with this gathering here of our members and putting all our members together, almost 1,000 companies, I think you all played an essential role in keeping Ukraine resilient and fighting on the economic front, and also supporting the military activities. So you should be all very proud about that. I also want, before I go to 2023, I want to thank Raiffeisen Bank for sponsoring the event. I think it's very important to mention that as well. Looking for the outlook, obviously, the outlook for this year depends a lot on how situation will develop on the military area, on the front lines. But as the previous speakers mentioned, I think we all have very good reasons to believe and to be confident that victory will be on the Ukrainian side. I think there is no doubt about it. And it cannot be otherwise, considering the overwhelming international support, as well as all the efforts done by Ukrainian population and Ukrainian companies, and yourself, all of you present here. Looking a little bit into our main business in Ukraine, which is agrochemicals. Currently, the agricultural market experiences certain challenges. Starting from the topic of grain exports. I saw recently when traveling to Ukraine 2 days ago, the trucks are piling up again at the border with Romania, increasing the cost of exports for agricultural producers with a significant amount. Then we have the issue of low availability of tractor drivers and machinists for experienced by the farmers, because these were among the first people to be drafted, as their skills are very much needed into the military arena to defend the country. We also notice, which is very particular for this year, the farmers, particularly those one closer to the combat areas, are in a waiting mode, particularly for the next 2-3 weeks, to see what is going to happen with the threats and what is going to be the state of the war in the few. So the farmers will wait until the last moment before taking a decision to plant a seed or to use some agricultural inputs like fertilizer or crop protection products to grow their crops. This is something new, and it has a direct impact on the whole value chain of agricultural inputs, including liquidity availability, and also elements for credit risk management, like promissory notes, bank guarantees, and so on and so forth. Other than that, we personally look at 2023 with being prepared for any kind of scenario. Last year, when the war started, we were of course talking about business, but we did not look at business as a financial result, but we look at business with the key elements. And the first one was people, and I think this happened in all the companies which are present here today. The safety of our people was the main priority. It's people which are moving the business, and we had to make sure that we can do everything we can to keep people safe. Then the second priority was, for us, was immediately, how can we continue supplies? We realized as a supplier for many industries, as a key supplier for many industries, we realized we have, first of all, a social responsibility to continue delivering into Ukraine, although by all the, let's say, former common sense rules, we should assess the risk, we should assess how we can do business in a country at war, and so on and so forth. I think here our company, and as well as many other companies, were extremely agile to find ways to continue importing products or producing despite extremely challenging circumstances, despite in certain occasions lack of insurance, And we took this risk as we saw there is a big demand from Ukrainian enterprises to have enough raw materials so they can continue their activities. This is also something that we are very proud about, and I think all of your companies should be very proud about, keeping the economy running, keeping the wheel spinning with all the stakeholders, including banking system, information security system, light industries, heavy industries, energy companies, and so on. This was crucial to be able to be in this situation today and to continue keeping the wheel turning in terms of economy, income, and necessary support also to continue the military operations.
But
So,
are you going to invest further actually into 2023?
Look, we did not have a big investment plan before the war. When we talk about investment, we invest a lot, as I mentioned with few occasions, particularly in knowledge transfer. That means we invest in a lot to train our people and then to pass the knowledge, the specific technical knowledge, to our customers. And in this, we continue investing. We continue spending money to organize events, to meet our customers, and to pass this, to do this knowledge transfer, which is essential for a good economy to run. I would also consider an investment the fact that we bring every month millions and millions of euro of products to be sold in Ukraine, products which are critical for the Ukrainian economy to continue, despite the obvious risk of a country at war. And we had no hesitation into continuing this business. And again, this is not only us, BSF, I think this is all multinational companies which are acting in Ukraine. They show the same solidarity and the same appetite for risk-taking, which is not expecting necessarily something in return, but rather taking it as a responsibility towards Ukraine as a market which delivered very good results for us in the past. So we continue our activities to the normal. We are ready to adapt to any kind of scenario. We are ready to shrink, if needed, the activities, but to be resilient again, to recover immediately if it's needed. It's very difficult to build scenarios how it will happen, but we are here to stay 100% committed to the market, to our customers, to our employees, to all our partners. And we will find our way this year without any doubt.
Excellent.
Until the victory is reached.
And you also said, actually, the other day that you're going to support our newly established organization, Global Business.
I wanted to come to that as well,
yeah.
But I want to make, before I'm going to that, that was my final point. I wanted to mention a little bit about the another very important topic for this year, which is the psychological renewability. Ukrainians and all of us which are involved with Ukraine, we had experienced significant amount of hardship on all kind of dimensions. For many people, the situation is tragic. Many lost their dear ones. But also for the average colleague in Ukraine, the level of uncertainty and not having an end of the war in sight is difficult to bear. So one of our key focus this year, and I want to mention this also, I know many of you are thinking about it and are doing actions to do that, and I hope I will inspire even more. Psychological renewability is something that will put a very specific focus this year. We want to make sure our colleagues have access to resources where they can ask for help when they feel life is very hard and when they feel they don't have other options. This is extremely important because it's our colleagues which will start rebuilding Ukraine when victory is achieved. Coming to global business for Ukraine, yes, I wanted to mention that we decided to support, to get engaged financially and to support this initiative, this excellent initiative of EBA. and also personally of Anya and some of her colleagues. So we are getting engaged into that financially. We are going to sponsor some events and to organize together some events because we believe this is from our opinion, this is the best venue to work on rebuilding Ukraine project. This is, of course, a very vast and multidimensional effort, rebuilding Ukraine. We need to communicate the best we can. We need to bring people together. We need to tell people the real stories of Ukraine, and we need to keep very high the level of interest for the Western companies or Western stakeholders on Ukraine. We already started internally in our organization. As you know, BSF, it's a very large organization with a conglomerate of business units. We are extremely well connected across the globe with our partners and customers. And I already organized in November an internal event where we have more than 400 participants, where I invited Anya as a key speaker, as well as the head of Ukraine Invest Office, Sergei Tsivkach. And this event was creating a lot of interest in our organization globally, and we need to continue that. That's why, from our side, Global Business for You is an excellent venue to continue keeping the interest inside of BSF for all our business units, spread that to our partners, global partners and customers, and also attract many others around. So again, I hope this will serve as an example, and I hope many others of you will join this effort to promote Ukraine internationally via Global Business for You.
Thank you so much, Tiberio. And just for you to really understand that we really now feel on the global arena that Ukraine is being perceived only as crisis, war and corruption. Quite often this is one of the general statements when it comes to Ukraine. And it seems to me that we are lacking those success stories on the global market. We need to tell that there is also resilient business in Ukraine, which continues even in these very dramatic circumstances. And this would be also the role of this Global Business for Ukraine institution. Thank you very much, Tiberio. Let's move on.
Anna, if I may, one final phrase. I think it fits very good to the current situation. Apparently, they say it was Winston Churchill, although it's not clear if it was Winston Churchill, but there is a quote which I always had as my favorite, which is, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue which really matters."
Yeah.
And I think it's very good with our times that we are living today. Thank you all very much, and
Thank you.
everybody. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Tiberio. Let's move on. Tomasz, macroeconomic situation. Obviously, you are the person who is well equipped with all the analytical data besides everything, you know. So that's why it would be really interesting to understand what is your prognosis for this year? What is your forecast? Do you agree with the one which was presented by National Bank of Ukraine Governor and also Rostislav and BlackRock? So how different it is? And can you also mention what could be greener rate? It's like our favorite question this year, but nevertheless, what kind of decisions, correct or non-correct, have been taken by the government of Ukraine last year?
Okay, thank you, Anna. I was actually getting ready in Ukrainian, but can do
But
it
you can
in
switch to
English
Ukrainian,
as well.
no problem.
Да, один из позитивов минулого року, що я...
One of the positive okay, last year I switched to Ukrainian. That's a positive thing, definitely. That yeah, I won't be like so eloquent like Taras, but I think that I'm doing it better than Azarov. Yeah, sorry for mentioning that name, but I'm doing it better anyway. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's do it in Ukrainian. I sent you a couple of slides. Can we put the slides, like 4 slides there, where I actually give answers to questions? Please, the following one. 1 slide back, please. That's too fast. Okay. This slide shows you what we expect, how Ukrainian GDP will evolve. That's what Mr. Pishney said, that in third quarter 2022, the economy had some growth, 9% of growth. This was much higher than actually everybody expected. But in the fourth quarter, these data are still not like complete for the fourth quarter, but unfortunately, due to massive shelling and blackouts, the results are not that nice. But still, the economy had only 30% of decrease last year. This is our evaluation and National Bank evaluation. It's much, much better than everyone forecasted in the third quarter, including the World Bank. They had this forecast for the most conservative decrease, like 40%. So what does it mean? It means that consumers in Ukrainian business were much more resilient. These managed to restore their operations faster. Those who are not at the front line, those who are not in the armed forces, well, if we are not there, we have to support the economy. That's our task. So the bravest ones are with rifles there, and those are in the tanks. But we here should not become depressed. We have to work. We have to stay active. We have to pay taxes. Next year, we expect to have a GDP decrease. National Bank expects 0.3%. We expect the decrease in the range from 0 to -5. And it's based on the following. We expect that this hot phase of war will continue by the third quarter, by September, by autumn 2023. And in the fourth quarter of 2023, we'll have it slowed down a little bit. It's just a forecast, just an assumption anyway. And it's hard to say what will happen with military actions this year, what will happen on the front line, and what will happen with this slowdown. But anyway, it's much better comparing to what we had in 2022. So for business, it would be a little bit more stable, the environment. And this forecast also includes problems with electricity supply. Yes, we will unfortunately. I think in 2023, we'll still have it by the end of the year anyway. Next slide, please. It's about inflation. Mr. Pishney said about inflation a lot. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? Don't sleep. It's still not the night time. Okay, 26.6. Well, it's still better than we expected. And yeah, this is it. Inflation. You can see the situation starting from 2013. In 14-15, the inflation was much higher because then the economic crisis was followed by the banking crisis as well, financial crisis, big devaluation, like reserves. There was a problem with the reserves. We had the reserve level much lower than we have today. Well, thanks to reforms which were launched in the National Bank as well, and by Alexander Pisaruk. We have him with us today. The financial sector currently, even with economy's decline, it's in much better condition. In 2014-2015, we had 17% of decrease, now 30% of decrease, but financial system today is really stable and liquidity is okay. 26.6. We can compare it actually with the countries, with our neighboring countries in our region. Hungary, last year they had inflation almost at the level with Ukraine, 25%, almost the same. Baltic states, more than 20%. Czech Republic, more than 15%. Next year, we expect to get inflation 20 or less %. A little bit more stable situation. Next, please. This is the most interesting thing for you, I guess. Okay, so the exchange rate, it's hard to give any forecast, but we expect that National Bank, if they keep the fixed rate, minimum within the first half of the year, at least, in the second half, if we see that the war will take much more time, as Mr. Pishney said, they changed their forecast already, and they expect that the hot phase will continue by the end of the year, and starting from 2024, will have it slowing down. So if they observe that the war is still taking place, the hot phase, I mean, we think that they will shift the rate, they will fix it at the new level. If they observe that, at what level they will fix it? How do you think? Well, I think they will stick to this rate, the street rate, as we call it, yeah, the market rate. Today, it's 10-11% higher. So they will fix the rate again by the end of the year. If, again, they see that there is some improvement on the battlefield and in economy, we think that they will move in the direction of this floating rate with some limitations. There is an option. Plus minus 0.1% per day, like many other options that can be presented. I will not, well, I think it'll be the floating rate. So we expect the average rate in this year to have 38. By the end of the year, 43. Yes, devaluation. It's the dollar. Yeah, it's the dollar, US dollar. Last year, the average was 32. 32, from 32 to 38, this is devaluation. Less than 20%. It's better than last year anyway, and still quite pretty stable, I think. Our business plan are designed with more conservative evaluations, 42 of average rate in the first half, second half higher. We'll see. We expect to get it better anyway. We hope this will be a better result for us. The very last slide is National Bank reserves. You can see what situation we had in 2015. $5 billion we had. At the bottom now it's stable, 28.5 in the end of 2022. As Mr. Pishney said, in the end of January, if still no official figures we have, almost $30 billion. Well, much more than at the beginning of war. This year we expect international support with 10 billion, exceeding with 10 billion more than last year. We got it like from the US, European Union, and other partners. 32 billion we received, almost 32 billion. 42 we expect to get this year, $billion. You know, 18 billion euros from European Union, 10 billion for the first 9 months from US, plus 1 billion we have from the last year, and 3 billion we expect in the fourth quarter from US. And the financial year is over. Yeah. In the end of September, I mean. So the fiscal monetary situation is, we can forecast it. Now, to answer your question, where did government fail? 3 things I don't like, and I didn't like, and I don't like in 2022. When it comes to taxes, decreasing taxes in March for import, I think it was not justified. If it was done well, we lost so much money with VAT, and the state stopped compensating to exporters. I mean, the VAT compensation. They did not take the import VAT. That was not a good thing for the local producers. It should work in the opposite way. You never should lower the tax for import because with such a deficit of budget, and the state unfortunately continues doing that in a targeted way, lowering VAT for import. We speak of generators right now, which are imported, or we have this draft law in Verkhovna Rada to exempt the equipment. Okay, you don't want the equipment to enter with a cheaper price? Okay, so we have producers of equipment in Ukraine. We have to motivate local producers to, yeah, I understand. Or to motivate investors to relocate production of this equipment to Ukraine. So then, I don't know. There was no sense to lower it to 2%. It's the Nestle slide. Sorry, yeah, we're just going into the wrong area right now. It's a small, it's just, yeah, we're trying already. No. 2% for individual entrepreneurs, and the fuel tax should not be lowered. Like, it just decrease the budget income and the VAT reimbursement for exports and anti-corruption measures, anti-corruption issues. Well, these delays with appointment of the head of special anti-corruption prosecution, we talked to President. The meeting last year in January, Arma is not doing some good stuff as well, not very active. And the Russian assets we have in Ukraine, still nothing was done. But we have the law. According to this law, we can actually nationalize these. So this is like the third issue. Okay, you have warehouses and office centers. What's happening with the employment? What's the dynamics with your assets? Okay, how to use it? We have warehouses filled with 100%, centers as well. Office premises. Well, in office premises, like 20% of. Okay, if 25% are vacant, that's good. Okay, but we spent a couple of $1 million in generators, so more than 40 different objects and production objects, industrial objects are equipped with generators. So we can see that IT people are coming back to work to offices because at home they don't have anything to work with. They have no electricity. Yeah. The very last question. First of all, a compliment to you. You have a beautiful Ukrainian, you know. you're fluent. Wonderful progress. Half a year ago it was, but now it's beautiful. Let's give a round of applause. What were you doing? Give us a life hack to those who still are not fluent in Ukrainian. What the hell are you doing just to master it? What were you doing? You have a Ukrainian wife. Yeah, but that's a factor. So we communicate in Ukrainian at home, yes. And I force everyone in office to speak Ukrainian to me. I'm listening to Ukrainian radio. Yeah. Whoa, that's a good practice. Thank you. It really works. Thank you so much.
Let's move on. Alessandra, you do not speak Ukrainian, I hope. No? Yet.
Unfortunately not. So I feel completely pressed with the performance of Thomas.
It should be your next KPI, actually,
Absolutely,
Ukrainian language. You spend lots of time now in Kiev, really.
Indeed.
So that's why it seems to me it could be additional challenge for you to know, to learn Ukrainian language. But so far, you're concentrating obviously on Nestle business. How does Nestle actually looks like for now? And what is your future plans for next year? Because just recently we've heard that you are going to invest 40 million euros into Ukrainian economy. You would like to build the new factory. So what is your prognosis?
Few questions all together, so let me amplify a little bit the answer. So thanks again. Apologies, I will have to speak in English, but I'm very much pleased to be here, and I am here. And I think to answer your question, how did we do last year? I think the war has changed the playbook of the business KPIs. Has changed the playbook of the management. So I will talk about a little bit growth and results later, but our KPIs are very much echo what Tiberius said. Are first of all the safety of our people. Second, how can we play our role in societies and communities where we are present? And third, how can we keep our assets floating and safe so that we can produce? We are producing food, so we produce essential needs. So how did we do in these three KPIs? So first of all, I am very happy that with 5,800 employees, we kept everybody employed. This doesn't mean that we had all the factories working, but from the very first days, 2 factories restarted. So we kept everybody united. We shaped our coalition. We supported. Clearly, we supported our people. We had a number of initiatives like Ukraine We Care, where we helped people to move from east to west or to safest place, or from Ukraine moving abroad. And recently, we just completed a very important initiative, which is Ukraine Nest. We helped 70 of our colleagues that have their homes destroyed partially or completely with financial support to restore basically also their houses. So all these initiatives are important for me because are important element of the first KPI is how did we do with safety. If we move to the second KPI, which is helping the communities and societies, yes, well, we donated a significant amount of money, but it's not the money that is important, it's the quantities and the number of meals. We donated 160 million meals to all the communities where we are working in Kharkiv, in Lutsk, in Lviv. And how did we do with our assets? So our assets are being protected. Clearly, we invested significantly to expand the production. So we invested already this year, in 2022, around 25 million. Also to increase the safety. And if you can show the first slide, I'm very happy because, as I mentioned, we had 3 factories. 2 were working, one in Lviv and one in Lutsk, but the one in Kharkiv was stopped for a long period of time. But on the 23rd of December, we managed to restart, if you can show it. And this is our people in Kharkiv, proudly showing the first pallet of production. That is the first, sorry. Go back.
See, I'm playing with this.
Okay, that was
it's like a monkey.
Very fast. I hope you captured the emotions. No, stay there.
Пожалуйста, сами, пожалуйста.
Previous one.
А то у меня пальцы быстро работают.
No, the previous one.
Yeah, the first one.
Stay there. So that's what we did. We put shelters. You see these ballistic shelters on the low picture there that are in front of the line so that people can go in 10 seconds directly. And we restarted to produce in Kharkiv. And that was for us a very emotional moment, 10 months after the stoppage. And the level of really of resilience that the people has shown has been just impressive. We were talking about resilience. We were talking about resistance. We were talking about courage. Well, I am humbled in front of my team, in front of 5,800 people that really wanted to help and support. Now, you asked me about the results. Okay, the results overall were relatively good. And I can speak also here, I think I represent FMCG category, so I will give a little bit of hints of how the FMCG companies and economy went. Overall, we had a growth below 10%, so just higher than 5% last year. We clearly sacrificed our margin, and we have a loss of volumes of around 15%. So overall, a good year in terms of growth, keeping an alignment on margin, let's say, and clearly loss of volumes. How the rest of MCG did, well, this is more or less how it happens in the market. Around 13% of growth with an inflation. Okay, this was measured in September of 24. Now we see that it's 26. But you see also that overall the growth for FMCG companies came fundamentally from pricing because the volumes are down around 10% overall in the categories. The spend per trip and therefore the paid price for the same basket, it's up 22, 23%, and also the frequency went down. Now, I repeat that for us, this was more or less in line with these trends. We had a little bit less growth than this, but we had also one factory less for the full year. So therefore, volumes were heavily impacted, around 15%, as I said. Now, when we look at 2023, there has been a shared optimism in the room, and I wanted to keep sharing this optimism in the room. When we look at 2023, we are also relatively forecasting a good growth. And again, this time we want to achieve double-digit growth for 2023. And we will reduce the loss on the volumes. So we expect -5, -6% in terms of volumes. Again, we have a factory more. But why I am relatively positive, also continuing the speech that has been done so far. This is also, I brought a couple of slides. This is the expression of the consumer confidence in Ukraine. And it goes back basically to 2019. So you see here that, and the three lines, let me explain. The one in the middle, the red one, is the consumer confidence. So how consumers sees the future in the next 6 months. The bottom line, which is the green one, is in the current situation. How do they see it now? And the top line is how they see in the little bit longer term, so beyond 6 months. So what is inspiring here is that a couple of things. First of all, you see that the consumer confidence is quite high at around 100%, almost at the highest level, highest than the worst moment of COVID. So COVID was giving more negative impact to consumers than the war. There is an optimism on how the situation will evolve. You see also that the big jump happened, maybe the line is not well addressed there, but the big jump happened around March, when the news about EU accession, when the news about also the possibility of and the liberation of some of the territories boost a little bit the enthusiasm, much more so, excuse me, not a little bit, a very strong boost of the enthusiasm, which didn't go down significantly, particularly in the long term. And then a couple of, I would say, interesting slide, a couple of data that I took. The concern about the war, here I have to explain it a little bit, but what is on the right, it shows that in Ukraine, consumers were, shoppers and consumers that were interviewed in this panel, they were at the beginning thinking that the war clearly will last a little bit longer. Now they are much more, shorter. Now they are much more realistic. And clearly that the things that concern more is about the length of the war. And another drop of optimism is that Ukrainians, they wanted to have their children back to Ukraine more than in August 21. So more than during the COVID time. This is again a panel that shows that 72% Ukrainians would like their children to be back, and particularly they want there to be back to Ukraine with the end of the war and the accession of the NATO, but not only. So you see the percentages on the right. So this gives a little bit of a positive perspective of what is happening. Now, you also asked me about our engagement and our investments in Ukraine. Let me say what we have done in 2022 first, which was more in the area of, as I mentioned, protection. Around 22, 23 million that we invested were on the shelters, as I mentioned, but not only investment on increasing production, but we invested also in renewable energy. So we invested, for example, around 2 million on solar panels. Now all our factories are equipped and our DCs are equipped with solar panels, the Western factories, unfortunately Kharkiv not yet. And then we heard many times today the attraction of Ukraine is if it is an investment, if it is a place to invest. You mentioned something that in Davos, everybody says, everybody will invest in Ukraine the day after the war is finished, right? Well,
it was Rostislav's statement. You know, it's Rostislav Sharma. He is offering this, but I think that it's possible to invest even before the war, and that's because you demonstrated.
Yeah, and that's what we decided, and that's what we decided because we decided we had a vision. This is not an investment, it's a vision. So we decided to build a fourth factory in Western Ukraine, very close to where we have already now one. It's the exact place is Smolekhiv, which is Volyn region. And we decided to have the fourth factory there, but it's not just a factory. We will build there a food hub. We have already a factory which produces sauces, the touching ketchup and mayonnaise and other seasoning, etc. The famous 10 ingredients of Mivina. So we will invest there to create a food hub, which will be focused on producing locally, but being located in Western Ukraine, also for export. So we have a vision. We have a vision, and we are committed to do it. The site already exists because it was an existing DC, and we were using as a DC. Now we have to make all the completion of the construction work. Hopefully, we have heard all the administrative burden to open a new factory and to get the concessions, etc., will be facilitated, so we can open it fast. And the aim is to start production in Q1 2024.
I have no doubts that you will open that fast. At least the local authorities and the central authorities will make everything possible for you to succeed. And I think that all those brave investors who will come and bring their money, I hope that they will really not regret about that.
But that's the point. You're right. We hope that we bring a wave of,
Yes.
in this direction, because again, 40 million is not a massive investment for Nestlé. Certain factories, they cost much more. And I repeat, we had already the land there, we had already the building, so now we need to adjust the building. But it's more a signal that we want to give, and a sign of trust. As Tiberio said, we are here, and we were here in good years and in bad years. We are here to stay, we are here to win. That's for sure.
And it was also encouraging to listen about your results, that only 10% dropped last year. Even despite the fact that actually 6 or 7 million people left the country, still it was not huge impact on your business operation. Is it true? And then
so
if
as
yes,
I said, we grown again around 7 to 8% in value, but we declined 15 in volume. But we need also to consider a couple of things. We have a variety of business. Confectionery business was growing very fast. Coffee business was growing very fast. Infant nutrition business, by definition, has been impacted because a lot of moms
Babies.
left, and then the birth rate also was almost stopped. Plus, let's also consider that I mentioned before, we donated 4,200 tons of food. Majority was baby food. So we also have accepted to impact our business with our donation because, of course, of the role that we have, but because the people in need.
Really, it's very cool. Thank you so much on behalf of everybody, is that you are investing, and let's hope that everything will be all right. Let's move on. Олександр, ви вмієте говорити українською?
Alexander, you definitely speak Ukrainian, so let's do it. What challenges did you observe in 2022? What do you forecast for 2023 as a bank? As a banking system, you are one of the biggest private banks in Ukraine, foreign banks, and we just have to think like, how will it evolve in 2023? Thank you, Anna. I definitely can speak Ukrainian, but I have not much to say. Mr. Pishny said it already. But you're not just talking, you're doing, because the banking system is viable. It's unbreakable. There weren't any delays. Any shutdowns. People are used to the fact that banks are operating. Nobody is like, well, it's by default taken as something that's there. Credits, rates, we're used to that, but okay, people start asking, your mobile applications always function? Even your managers respond when we call. Ukrainians now know that banking system is not that easy, especially during the war. We showed some good results. Everyone worked wonderfully. And it's not just because, well, we prepared to it. Raiffeisenbank was preparing to it for 4 months. We never believed there would be a war, but we prepared to it. We invested in IT security. We designed the systems for the case of war. when people won't be able to function. We had backup systems. People were in different locations. Some were abroad. We had to disperse these functions all around Ukraine just to get rid of centralization. When we had operational center in Kherson, imagine, yeah, 600 people in Kherson, just imagine what that is. And everything worked. It functioned because we were preparing, you know. This is an important lesson, not just for banks, for any company. You may not believe in what's happening, but you have to get prepared. It's not about your faith. Second reason why everything worked well, we invested in IT security. That's it. A lot. We invested a lot. It's expensive, but it's really worth it. DDoS attacks, we had so many of them, these fraud attempts and scamming attacks from Russian hackers. Immense number. I don't want to give you statistics, but we mostly hit everything. We had no damage. In fact, no problems with clients. So you have to invest, you have to prepare. And the team was really fantastic and is fantastic. This is the key lesson. If you're entering the storm with a bad team, I'm so sorry for you. So we were lucky because we had a good team. For the next year, just to talk, we'll start with simple things, I guess. Despite the critical infrastructure hits and the possibility of blackout, I don't believe in total blackout, personally. But even if we have it partially, banking system will function in a stable way. Mr. Pishney said about that. The power banking project he mentioned with the units, everything is there, it's working. So we're doing this as well. Everything will be there. You will be able to transfer money. The basic functions will always be there, you know? So it's important. Traditional questions. Everyone asks about credits and loans. I've seen many crises in many countries. I've been abroad. I've been in IMF. There's no country where there's enough loans during the crisis. It's not enough of loans anytime. Banking system is a cyclic. It has a big leverage. The capital commitments is like 10-1, and banks have to keep capital during the crisis. They can't give a lot. This is the model, but they try to decrease this pro-cycliness. You know, the one who does it better, the one wins. In my Raiffeisen Bank, I feel that in the system that it is capable, next year it's capable of satisfying the vast majority of financially stable demand, financially backed demand for loans. Okay, banks can't give you money when you can't pay it back. So financially credible, that's what I'm saying. Financially credible, too financially credible. Yes, we have sectors which are prioritized. We've had these in Raiffeisen prioritized 4 of these. Traditional strong sectors are the leaders. Agriculture, 20% of market share. We simply could not allow ourselves doing nothing. We gave loans, we supported the clients first. Food, then medicines and pharma. I mean, the next one is fuel. We have a lot of fuel sector clients, and we have the fuel. Thank God. Next year, we'll have similar priorities. I hope that soon we'll stabilize and recover. We'll expand other sectors with other banks. We'll try to get some new clients, and we will add some loans in other sectors, a part of those critical ones we had in 2022. But situation with loans and credits will be satisfactory. The rate, okay, there will be rates, there will be credits, so the rates will be, I will not tell you about the state programs, the rates, commercial rates, in my opinion, next year approximately, well, similar like current ones. It depends on the national bank rate. If National Bank says that next year they expect the rate to stay at level 25, the loan rate will not decrease, will not increase, this will be stable. If National Bank, possibly, I don't know, they don't say it. They may consider, if everything goes well, we will win earlier. The external support will enter Ukraine, the balance will be covered and business will work in a stable manner. We may even decrease it like closer to the end of the year. Even in 2023, these may decrease. But the key decrease of loan rates, this will happen, I guess, in 2024. With deposits, it's a different thing, especially for individuals. These will increase this year, the rates for deposits. National Bank is promoting that, increasing the obligatory reserve requirements, and deposit rates will go up. Credit rates will be at the same level or fall. So this is how it should be. It will be stable. If the loan price will be higher than 25%, obviously. The business has to be that financially credible and get a good income to actually be able to pay the loan. So is it real? Is it possible? Anna, we have these cheaper than 25 in Raiffeisen. I mostly don't know clients 25 plus, 2025, but lower than the NB rate. We know our clients, we love them, and they have additional like services they get from us, and we get another income, the fees, and it allows us to keep loans like under that rate. So we have different clients, those with 15% different, depending on situation. In each specific case, we look at the client. The rates are high, but please remember that taking inflation into consideration is like negative. 579 program. How do you feel? Is there a demand for it? Is it easy to get a loan with this program? Shall we retain it next year for everyone? 579 is a popular program. It's a good crisis program. It works well. The government did very well. They kept it during the war. There is a demand. We always had demand for it. It will be kept in 2023, especially in such sectors like in agriculture. 579 is highly demanded in agro sector. In other sectors, there will be demand. To me, it seems that conditions may change a little bit. Refinancing, the zero refinancing, what I heard, maybe it's like not there. The rates may go up. The government is doing that, Ministry of Finance, certain increase of rates because a big fiscal load and budget. Big difference with market ones, and certain modifications will be there, but it will be anyway a privilege. So these credit holidays or loan holidays are called. Shall we have it? Yeah. A lot of these we had last year. These holidays, loan holidays. As Andrei said, economies like starting from May or June. Now economy is partially recovering. It's not the time for loan holidays, you know. For 2-3 months, we had zero fees for transactions, you know, and 3 months, 4 months of holidays, you know. You can't have a whole year of holiday, you have to work, yeah. So on NPL and the payment discipline. Okay, so last year you mentioned that payment discipline is much better than in 2014. This trend, is it kept right now? It's definitely there. Ukrainians are good. Ukrainians are great guys and girls. They are taking it seriously. They're taking their commitment seriously. The bank commitments, they take it seriously. Discipline is at very high level, much better than in 2014, 2015, 2008. I think partially because the client space is clear already. We have so many clients. We were together in 3 of these crises. We know them, we trust them, they trust us. We have constant communication. With this constant communication, try to find solutions, and it actually helps to keep the discipline. Responsible attitude and constant dialogue with a client. What is the key problem that you have? Everybody knows Our our HQ is in Russia. That's like the key problem for Python. And if we handle that, it means that we handle everything. Okay, super, great. Thank you for supporting this event, actually. Thank you for organizing it. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, we move further. Taras, IT sector. Soft serve. How do you feel? You know, what are your plans for 2023? Because previously we did not know that IT sector is functioning 25% of growth on average in 2022. You're in the trend. Good afternoon, everyone. So within last year, IT sector showed growth for 6% of growth, according to National Bank data. And export income, 7.3 billion, 32 billion hryvnias. These are taxes, 16% higher. So in fact, IT industry demonstrated a lot of resilience. In this context, take into consideration that IT industry from East, they massively migrated to Western regions and abroad. This is phenomenal result, I can say. And if we take what is in the foundation, what is the backbone of the success? Firstly, ecosystem, which we have in Ukraine successfully operating within the last 10, 15 years based on companies. In Ukraine, we have approximately 4,000 companies operating. Those who know how to bring a lot of software projects into Ukraine. And now we have this know-how community. They know how to create new IT service companies. In Ukraine, we have these companies growing as mushrooms. You know, the second reason, talents. In Ukraine, we have the third generation of IT engineers. The first one, these who built the first electronic machine. Later, Lushkova's Institute was founded. Talents are really competitive at the market. People who want to get recognition, they want to get some new stuff invented, they want to become heroes in IT, and they do everything that clients ask. They do a lot that clients don't ask, and this is really valuable. Last thing, no, not the last, but education. Within last years, we've established a synergy with business and education. They work together, shoulder to shoulder. We create bachelor's, master's degrees, degree programs and curricula. We give very skilled graduates to the world. They can adapt. Regulatory environment in Ukraine, we have very favorable conditions to develop industry. First of all, this is the favor of industry, represented by various associations, EBA as well. From the government, it's represented by the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Yeah. So IT industry came through this crisis. I can't say it was painless, but they did it with dignity, you know, it was quite good. IT industry is working at the global markets. Global markets did not respond that sharply to Russian aggression. All the companies of IT industry, these are virtual enterprises. All the processes are online, starting from recruiting, hiring, motivating, project management, wage payment, searching for requests. The whole IT infrastructure is taken from abroad, and it's autonomous. It doesn't depend on Ukrainian context, basically. The last thing is managerial effectiveness. We have this business continuity plans on how to relocate people. It was in February. What was the first thing for us? People safety. If we take our company, we relocated 1,600 families, 2,500 families to Western regions, and this is a lot, you know. So what I want to say, IT industry provides high-level services during the war. We measure the quality of services with index of customer loyalty. NPS Net Promotion Score. SoftServe has 80% of that index, which is much higher, significantly higher than the average in industry with 40-50%. Satisfaction Employee Index, it's also measured with Net Promotion Score. Approximately 80% of employee satisfaction. Well, this is quite high. 85, yeah, 85%. Well, that's cool. Where do you invest more, in Ukraine or abroad? In fact, it's for us what is more important to assess these high risks in Ukraine and processing new requests. It's really hard to enter for the new request to enter Ukraine. Our clients think a lot about security-related risks and economic risks. As a result, what we can see at labor market, last year in spring, the number of open vacancies decreased twice comparing to the previous year. If we take September 2022, we had approximately 60,000 people looking for jobs. 5 times fewer we had vacancies. Before the war, we had the employees market. During the war, this market is employers market. There was a shift, but wages did not change. It's still very high, but qualified specialists get the job easily. Maybe those people who are newcomers, for them it's harder. If we speak about investment, our company is investing in Ukraine and abroad. First of all, we invest in Ukrainian education. All educational programs we launched in Ukraine, we do it now as well during the war. Education is a long-term investment. It's not an investment we want to get back in a year. Investing in students, joint bachelor's, master's program, investing in long-term perspective. In a couple of years, students will become graduates, the war is over, and they will work with us. Response to risks in Ukraine, developing offices abroad. Our company is actively working in Poland right now, in Eastern Europe, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania. Poland and Romania, in fact, we started developing these centers, business centers, since 2014. In Poland, we have this design center in Wrocław, Krakow, Białystok, Warsaw, Gdańsk, Gliwice. In Bulgaria, just in a couple of places. Poland for us has become the major country where we relocated people. We mostly relocated them there. We also were backed with the following. In 2021, we started establishing design centers in Mexico, Colombia, and Chile. Yes, these were very successful, I can say, and Ukrainian share is growing 6%. For SoftServe global share, last year we had 30% of growth. Taking into consideration the foreign locations, the income grows with 30% as well. Yeah, 30% of revenue growth, but income plus minus proportionally to it is a service business. Great. It's nice to know. At least some sector has substantial growth. You can at least be the driver of our future recovery. Thank you for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Okay, Serhiy, energy sector. Whoa, we all have become specialists in energy sector. We all learned to turn on generators and use the fuel. Okay, we can all teach everyone. Thank you so much for keeping the energetic front. Okay, what we can see at the calendar, we have 2 months of winter past. Winter will be the most complicated winter for independent Ukraine. The winter is almost gone. The worst is there. It's passing or not. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, well, I'll start from that. We never had these wars with energy objects before. And all the companies thought that, okay, we will have attacks, but nobody thought of high-scale attacks, with these prolonged attacks. Nobody thought of that. What do you need to understand, first of all, in business? What do you need to know about Ukraine's energy sector? Ukraine was always a profited state before February 24th. We generated more energy than we consumed. After, starting from summer, I don't remember, we temporarily lost key generation object. We temporarily lost it right now, and a couple of powerful generation objects in Kherson region, and so on. So we turned from profited state a deficit state. So, meaning we can't generate as much as we consume. In summer, we were lucky. There was a situation that when a part of the territories that we temporarily lost, we understand that electric energy is not going there. In summer, there is less consumption because we consume it less, business consumes less, citizens consume less. So there was a certain balance of consumption and generation. Yeah. Starting from October 10th, it's the second factor. Starting from October 10th, we had this war with energy sector, as we call it. How did it happen? How did it start? They still hit the network object, infrastructure object, state, non-state, whatever, the key object. And these are destroyed, and we can't transmit energy. We can't transport it. I don't remember Kiev, Dnipro, Odessa region. They suffer the most because of this. We had these cases when in one neighborhood we had electricity, in another we hadn't. Something was damaged. During the last three attacks, we saw that they changed the tactics. Russians changed the tactics. They started hitting generation objects. So we have to understand that situation is under control. It's stable, but it's hard because we've lost access to generation system at all. We have 75% of heating stations generation heating, and they require repair. So this situation, well, I personally thought that starting from the end of March, April, when the consumption will go down after winter, that we will reach the balance. But I'm pretty not sure about this, because restoring generation objects, whoa, it's not months. These can be years, guys, or like many, many months. So I think that first of all, we have to understand that situation will not be improved with one step, with one decision. What's happening with business perspective, with our interactions? We're present all around Ukraine, more in central Ukraine, we work with business. We have this picture that business suffers, of course, because there is no electricity. Big enterprises, like big conglomerates, big businesses, they don't have benefit because, well, they don't have alternatives. They don't have generators. It's hard. For small businesses, they were the first to respond with generators, yeah, and solar panels and mid-sized business, My key idea is that we have, in each specific situation, we have to prepare and model and shape your own program, energy autonomy program for any kind of situation that may happen. So autonomy program should be designed. Yeah. I'll try to explain what I mean. I break steps into step 1, fast steps, 1, 2, 3, 5 years. If we speak about initial steps, these are 2 steps. First, if there is a chance, an opportunity, maybe some personal generation, individual generation, if you can use a generator, you have to use it, okay? If you have a chance, like these are small objects, use accumulation system. to accumulate energy, like specific accumulating devices. Second step, I just wanted to tell you about it a little bit more because within the previous weeks, or like some weeks ago, the government adopted a decree that we can import electric energy to Ukraine. Not a big volume, not a huge amount, relatively low comparing to the deficit that we actually have in Ukraine. But 600 megawatts currently are accessible for us, for the state. This will decrease the deficit. And this is a chance for some business which margin allows to buy it with European prices. I mean, electric energy. For me, this is an alternative, if they can. For a couple of weeks, we've been testing. The first enterprises receive electric energy from abroad. In my opinion, this case will evolve. Well, we promote this case among our clients. Can I have the next slide, because I'm stuck a little bit with this. Yeah, like this. I'll tell a little bit about this. To import electricity, the client should have three things. The specificity of line. For big enterprises, it's not a problem. They are always there. They have specific line. But for small ones, this may be a problem. So you have to check. We check with our colleagues and we consult people. There must be this ESCO system. For big enterprises, this is not a problem. The margin. Financial credibility, you should be able to pay for it, for this electricity. If we speak about prices, currently in Europe, the market is open without price caps. So the volatile price for yesterday, approximately like 12 hryvnias. Well, yeah, it depends, of course, on the spot price, European market, and it depends on euro exchange rate, but it's forecasted. We can forecast this price, so we can take this one as a backbone. When it comes to one produced in Ukraine, it costs approximately like 5 hryvnias per kilowatt without additional cost for transfer and so on. Generator, minimum one for colleagues goes like 20 hryvnias, not less. If we say generators, simpler generators, basic ones, not adapted for business, the price may be like up to 50 hryvnias. So, what can I say? I personally think that import will be a case which will help us to decrease this deficit all around the country. And it's about short term. If we speak about long-term steps, in my opinion, I do want you all, I encourage you all to think about it. Two things will develop. First thing that we called energy efficiency. We developed this energy efficiency business with ESCO contract. We've been doing that for 4 years. It looks like that. We come to companies saying we can create a project for you which will save 30% of electricity. We invest together. We don't make money on consultations. The income is in saving. We invest together with entrepreneur, and then the saved money is shared between two later. So I do think that today, now we have to implement these business. For each business, you may have your own. I know hundreds of clients already are doing this, and I want you all, please, 3-5 years, think for 3-5 years, because business energy independence, as we see it this year, this is a very serious thing. We speak about the second trend. I think that after what we managed to overcome, and we will overcome even more next year, we will have this local personal generation developing. What my colleague said from Nestle, solar panels, other bio generation, something like that. This will develop, this will evolve, because we can see that even, well, even one attack, even one massive attack during a day can like turn a couple of regions off, you know, a couple of big cities for a couple of hours, staying without electricity at all. So briefly, that's it. That's everything I wanted to say. I'm pretty sure we have a lot of questions to me, and I'll be so happy to answer any question. I'll give you any forecast. I know. You already gave a forecast. You already gave a forecast. That it won't be better this year with energy, so you have to take care of your autonomy. This is a useful forecast. In the couloirs, you'll be attacked by those who want to cooperate. Okay? Friends, in Scandinavia, by the way, you know, they have a lot of activities on green energy initiatives. And a couple of days I've been to Oslo when we had a conversation with colleagues who are interested to invest in Ukraine in green energy. NEFCO, as far as I understand, they give already a lot of projects, grant-based in Ukraine's green energy. So we have to start using that as well. Do you want to say something? I can just comment. I think Ukraine, in a quite short period of time, will become a proficient state again. If we speak about years, how many years? No, I don't know. I'm not giving any figure. It depends on victory. Yeah, victory decides everything. But we already know some projects are designed in Ukraine, local Ukrainian companies, international ones already, they calculate. They're getting ready. Shall we get money before the end of the war? I can't tell you. I will not sign under that. Second thing I want to mention in this context that on February 21st, 22nd last year, what we did? We joined the European energy system. We are a part of European energy system, and this is a big achievement. This will approach our markets, and I think that in short-term perspective, we will become economically, legally, physically, will become a part of energy market. And then this will be a big quantum leap of the whole market, starting from green and up to, like, yeah, it'll be there. Okay, I think we had a lot discussed. We just have to discuss it also during the couloir conversation. I just want to say one thing to finish. You know, again, coming back to Oslo, during the couloir discussion, I met a colleague, Trond Mo. I guess you remember. Some of them remember you for quite a long time. He was in EBA as well, leading the Telenor, was the president of European EBA. So he gave his wife's statement. In the end, everything will be okay.
Then it's not the end. Тому я просто хочу сказати, що дійсно все буде добре.
Yeah, I really want to say that everything's gonna be fine, as his wife says. Please, don't lose your faith, move to autonomy. And on behalf of all of us, I'd like to express gratitude to our panelists for these wonderful ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, keep holding on. Thank you.